All right, here we go in 3, 2, 1. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Sports Medicine Broadcast. Talking with Stephen Smith. I got my boy Sean Reedy here. We're at the Sports Medicine Update Live, right after Stephen's presentation. Stephen, it is a pleasure to have you. You work with the Houston Texans, registered dietitian, CSCS, and LD, licensed dietitian.
Yep.
All right. And then also sat and ate lunch with you, and you're talking a little bit about your service in the military. So I cannot thank you enough for
Before you go too far,
for choosing to be in the service and working with those people who have offered their life for mine. So thank you.
Before you go too far, don't thank me too much. I was a civilian contractor, not actually in the service, but it was a pleasure and quite an honor to be able to work with those guys. So yes, they're great, and I have to give them thanks every single day that I was with them, and even today, for where I am. I mean, I grew a ton with them. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, it was interesting to hear some of your stories and stuff like that. So appreciate it there. All right. In your talk today, we're talking about fueling the NFL athlete, fueling the NFL player. Obviously, it's slightly different from the high school where I'm at. And it's, I'd say a lot different from the high school where I'm at. We were 0-10 this year. We were like 2-8 the year before and those kind of things. So that's the kind of football athlete we have. But one of the things I heard you when you were talking at the conference on Saturday is you kept going back to everything is relative. Everything is relative. And so when we're talking about fuel and everything is relative, so that's, well, are they eating nothing? Then almost anything is better. Or, you said, are they going to Wendy's and getting a double cheeseburger? Well, let's get them a chicken breast. Or if it's a fried chicken breast, let's get them a grilled chicken breast. So tell me a little bit more about that.
So the biggest thing there is you have to understand that every athlete has a different starting point. If you expect them to live in your ideal box, you've already gone wrong. Part of it is you have to meet them where they currently are for true development to start to occur. For them to actually buy in, you have to truly understand where they are and then be willing to start there and grow. So again, like you said, if somebody's not eating at all, okay, well, let's get something in the tank in the beginning. Is it ideal? Maybe not, but it's better, and overall you're providing some sort of sustenance for that training session. Once you get in that routine, then you start to progress. What's there, how often they're eating it, all the rest. But you have to start where the individual athlete is. Otherwise, you're providing an unrealistic expectation for them.
Gotcha. Sean?
Well, I think that, just sitting here listening to your talk that you just did, I think one of the big aspects of it was just general, kind of like we were talking right before we started here. What do you do outside of when you leave my facility? Obviously, you guys are in your facility. When I was in college athletics, I had a facility that when they were there, we had training table that, there was very good decisions there. But then you'd hear guys, oh, I'm running to Wendy's or I'm running to wherever these places are. What is obviously, again, different dynamic that you have, but how do you educate your guys, your NFL athletes on, hey, these are the things that you need to go and do outside of just when you're here with me, that Jeremy can utilize with, hey, when you go home, these are the things that you could look for when you're going out to eat with your parents or when you're going out to eat with your girlfriend.
Right. So one of the biggest things there is, yeah, it's all well and good. We still have our guys have a lot more free capital, so they can still make some of those decisions where they send a rookie, here's my credit card, go get whatever if they don't like what's in the training table. So having the food there is one of the biggest challenges to meet all of the guys' needs for sure. But outside the building, you have a spectrum of compliance within any building, regardless of NFL, college, high school, wherever it is, you have a spectrum of compliance. The guys that have the highest compliance, you can individually program for and provide exact amounts of what you would like them to have to meet their individual goals. For the guys that have less compliance, giving them the basic 30,000 foot view of here's some things to look for in the restaurants, here's some things that could be asked to be prepared a little bit differently. Those are really the biggest keys there, because then once they get to a point where they're feeling good and they go back to their old routines, they don't realize how great they felt until they feel terrible again. Mm-hmm. So one of the funniest things to see, funny temporarily, is coming out of training camp where they're in an isolated environment. They eat 3 meals, 2 snacks plus a day inside the training facility. They're left to their own devices for the first time once camp breaks, and they go get a giant greasy cheeseburger from somewhere. and come back, like, oh man, I feel terrible. Like, well, what'd you go eat? What'd you do? "Oh, I just had a cheeseburger." Okay, so let's go back to the way that you felt for however many weeks. Let's try to recreate this outside the building. Here's some changes that you can make to that order to be able to make it a little bit less painful for yourself. Doesn't mean you have to be perfect all the time, but here's some of the changes that you can make in your own diet or with family. Families are the hardest part there with a wife, kids, girlfriend, whatever it may be. We have other interested parties that are trying to weigh in on the food. So teaching them how to navigate those waters is probably one of the more rewarding yet challenging aspects of it.
So you talked too about kind of in that same direction. You talked too about how by their second year in with you in the league with you, you kind of have a handle on your athlete. Obviously, us as athletic trainers, we try and keep our eyes open for those certain things. But you might be able to pick up that this person has a stomach issue, that they can't handle certain things. What are some of those things that you can advise for us to kind of look for, and you might have to talk to an athlete about some of those issues that they might have?
One of the biggest things is, and it's across the board, regardless of your position in the support staff, is building relationships with your athletes, because the better the relationship is on the front end, the more information you can get on the back end. So if you've developed that relationship with the individual, they're more open to tell you what's going on, and you start to learn some of their mannerisms, whatever it may be, and you can tell when they're just a little bit off. So having the time to be able to do that is challenging sometimes, but if you make the effort, a lot of times they'll reciprocate and give you more information, even without being asked. So again, relationship building is huge. Some of the things that you can look for are overall energy level. You can look, some of it's the way that they carry themselves, body language wise, in the facility compared to a normal day. And a lot of times it may or may not have anything to do with nutrition. Did you sleep? No, I've got a newborn. Okay, well, how about we figure out a way, instead of doing some extra here, how about we take some time to recover? Well, some of those wouldn't be able to happen if you didn't notice that they were just a touch off. You didn't pay attention to the athletes, and being more aware of your surroundings is huge at that level.
All right. We again mentioned the military experience. How did the training with them, because you were saying those guys would have to load up, run, a bunch of miles, perform a mission, and then run back. How did your training with them prepare you for working with the NFL?
That's a good question. It's a very unique environment. The motivation is obviously a little bit different, a lot different. Life and death compared to winning a game is completely different. So they're willing to give whatever it may be. You never really have to push too hard. It's a matter of providing them whatever they need to be successful. So the training there, if you can get away with some of the train ups and fuel those appropriately, you can pretty well fuel anything. Talking extremes in temperature, extremes in load management, extremes in distance, all together in one occasion. If you can effectively fuel that, you're pretty well set up to deal with any consequence that would come from a sports game in individual fashion, for sure, because a lot of times you've got 3 or 4 individual pieces that you would have one of in sports would happen at the same time for the military guys. And not only that, now you have shots fired at the same time. The stress, everything together there just makes an extreme fire hose version of what our athletes would have. But personalities are very, very similar. The one thing that I probably enjoyed most about the military was the intellectual challenge. You have individuals that are willing to research on their own. So it forces you to constantly develop and stay up with the current research in every area to be able to match their intellect and to be able to have a conversation of impact with them.
So they're looking at this even more than the NFL guys, huh?
Very much so. Some NFL guys. There's always going to be a few of the guys in every single team that's going to be up with every single thing. That's just what they enjoy about it. That's what they're passionate about. But with these guys, the majority, because their life depends on it, because their team depends on it, they're trying to push themselves to be the absolute best at all times.
It's a different world.
Yeah. We'd have to get you in sometime and just talk about that. be completely different. So, all right, you got anything else?
Yeah, one question. Explain, because I know this is it's a different dynamic than a lot of people, and even some athletic trainers might not even have the availability of someone like that. But explain your credentialing with regard to sports specific, because I know that is a big dynamic that's better for sport and better for athlete.
So the RD credential itself requires the 4-year background, your dietetic internship, which is a year long generally in the clinical realm. So you have the clinical basics and background. You pass your national board exam after you've finished that and qualified. After you do that, I don't know what the current standard is for the new applicants for the CSSD. The Certified Specialist in Sports Dietetics is considered the gold standard as far as the nutrition licensure certification, however you'd like to put it. It at one point required 2 years minimum as a registered dietitian and 2,000 hours. I believe it's 1,200 hours now of specialized practice within sports and wellness to be able to sit for the exam. And the goal is that CSSD can separate themselves from a clinical dietitian in the understanding of basic human physiology as it relates to sport, as well as supplementation and all the other unique challenges that come with sport.
And then again, in your talk on Saturday, you mentioned the places to get those, but we didn't have those on recording. So where's the best place to look for that?
So the easiest way to find some of these individuals is to go online. There's SCAN is one of them. It's Sports Cardiovascular and Wellness Nutrition, scandbg.org, or CPSDA is the Collegiate Professional Sports Dietitians Association. It's mostly full-time dietitians that are in college, professional of any sport, as well as tactical. Looking online, there's plenty of resources to at least reach out to one. And a lot of times the community is small enough that they know the other certified professionals in the area if you're looking for one. I believe in Houston we have 5 to 7 CSSDs in the city. So located all over the place, just a matter of what you're looking for, especially what they're used to in sport.
I think that's so important. Like, I know going and having that understanding of that's out there, just because, like you said on Saturday, there's so many people out there that, do a little strength training, have mastered their nutrition, they may think, and then want to give nutrition counseling and nutrition advice. And for the athlete, that might be okay, but might not be correct, because just like you talked on today, fuel is what you're giving. You are fueling that athlete. You are just as important as any sports medicine staff, any strength staff, anything, and it has to work as kind of like Yellen says, is that cohesive group. And if there's not that understanding of, hey, this person doesn't know what that athlete is doing and what they need, it's not there.
Right. And that's one of the hardest pieces too, is I didn't mention it up there, but unless you understand where the athlete is in their current recovery protocol, they could be post-op, they could be pre-op. If you're not setting them up medically and clinically to succeed, there are a lot of other things to evaluate other than just their overall output. There are so many other factors in the equation, and that's why having an effective sports medicine team and overall performance team that communicates frequently and effectively is huge. It's rare, but when you get it right, it can do some pretty amazing things.
It's that development of that training cycle, just kind of like we were talking about earlier at lunch, of that tactical athlete, that developing that schedule out for 2-3 years. Same thing. I mean, the NFL, obviously you're getting to, you're looking for August, or you're looking for July 15th, or whenever you guys start training camp. But you're actually, for some, depending upon the athlete, depending upon whether they're an Olympic weightlifter and they're training for the next Olympics or something like that, it all is developed towards what is done, and how someone like yourself can add that by understanding that training process.
Yeah. And the assumption too is that all of your athletes are healthy, and that's not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
You could have diabetic athletes, you could have athletes with cardiovascular disease, you could have a ton. Mm-hmm. You name it. There have been athletes that have been successful at the highest level with a lot of different issues. It's a matter of being able to effectively account for those and fuel them appropriately to manage not only their individual disease state, if that's present, but also their training on top of that. And that's where the credential is huge, to be able to ensure that the individual can effectively do that or has the base of knowledge to support that.
All right, Stephen, somebody wants to get a hold of you, ask you specific questions, anything like that, and how they can do that.
Easiest way to get a hold of me is work email. Is Steve, steve.smith@HoustonTexans.com.
There you go, steve.smith@HoustonTexans.com. If you got any specific questions, maybe you want to have them come out and speak at one of your events. Thanks for joining us on the Sports Medicine broadcast at the Sports Medicine Update. Again, thanks, Bob Marley, Sean Reedy. Of course, you guys know how to get a hold of Sean Reedy. So, Steve, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Sorry, I missed it.
All right. I got to run.